Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am your host, Saucy McFoodlefist, and today we are playing the letter. I know. It's been a long, strange journey that we've been on, but we just gotta keep putting one foot in front of the other and continue. So let's get started. His car's headlights have been turned on, illuminating the otherwise empty parking lot. If it's like that, this is probably going to be a quick visit. Although our landlady would probably have a few hundred words to say about this before letting it go. Not many in this complex own a vehicle, anyway, to warrant the space's frequent use, owing to this area's proximity to downtown Luxborn. No one's going to be disturbed if one car stays parked with its lights on for a few minutes. Right now, it serves as a pleasant company while I idle inside my own car, thumbing the invitation's fine print, flipping it over and over until the mentions become familiar enough. What should I say? How should I say it? There's a very high chance he'll say no, but on the off chance he accepts, what should I do? Fears. Doubts. Questions I haven't asked before, and more often than not, the anxiety is because of him. 17 years ago, I've been in this same position, a different letter in hand. Somehow, nothing has changed. Perhaps if he'd noticed how I've always felt about him years ago, I wouldn't be in this predicament. Honestly, he's managed to ace all those exams at school without even lifting a finger, and he couldn't figure this out.
How dense can he get?
But I can't very well wait for another 2 decades for something as measly as an invitation, can I? It's not like it's going to be a date. Someone likes Ashton. Although, frankly, I wouldn't mind if it is. However, that's a wish best reserved for some other time. I won't get anywhere if I just keep thinking about the what ifs. Gathering all my thoughts and courage, I step out of my car and gingerly make my way upstairs, invitation in hand. Ever since the incident 3 days ago, there's a strange air permeating the atmosphere here. Weighted, but the sort that slowly trickles through you until the burden of it finally bogs you down with some kind of disquiet. What? With some kind of disquiet? What does that mean? The days since have been uneasy, and Isabella's absence from the flat does not help settle it. Every day, coming home feels somewhat like an uphill battle in itself, leaving you spent, and when you're supposed to be getting some rest. Is Zachary experiencing the same thing? I certainly am. The same weary slump is also on Ashton's shoulders once I catch a glimpse of him. He's leaning casually on the rails, his back against the metal surface, while reading through a bunch of papers. Each one appears more important than the other, despite me having never read a letter of it. He'll probably head back to the precinct after this, if he's not going to drop by Zachary's for a bit of shut-eye. No rest for the wicked. But no matter how occupied he seems, he pauses anyway and looks up from his work the moment he hears my treads. He raises his hand in greeting as a smile spreads across his lips. Exhausted as I am, I can't help but return it to him.
What brought you here?
He hums something inaudible, neither an answer nor a vague hint, but before he turns his attention back to the papers. For a passing second, I thought he'd ignore or evade the question like every single time I've asked. But then he shuffles the documents back to a binder and sets them aside with a huff. It sounds more fatigued than I've ever heard from him recently. Either there's simply too many things keeping him busy at once, or his investigation isn't going well. Maybe even both.
Just work.
Just work? Do you expect me to believe that?
In a way. I didn't think an important contact ditched me and now I'm stuck would make for a cool alibi. Did it work?
As if there's going to be any difference. You're still a dafty. Anyway, do you want to come in? But if you're going to hang around for a bit, you better turn those headlights off. My landlady's one hairline away from banning you off this place, you know? Stop taking the piss out of her. She's a nice woman.
When she stops taking the piss out of Shirley, maybe I will.
You and your bloody car.
The first time I've heard of the name, I did a double take. From the way he put it, it was as if he was talking about some woman he met somewhere, surprisingly got along with and grown fond of. Never mind how impossible that is, knowing his lack of interest for people outside of our small circle. Honestly, it sent a surge of panic in me. It lasted for days. Until he proudly introduced me to his new car. His car.
Hey, it's a nice name. Don't laugh at it. You'll hurt her feelings. I'm gonna have to give that offer a pass, though.
I had a car named Nancy, by the way, just in case anyone who's listening cares. I named the first car that well, it wasn't the first car that I ever had, but like, the first car that was actually mine. Nothing unexpected, but admittedly, I'm hoping he'll stay a few more minutes. Suddenly asking to accompany me to some housewarming party is starting to turn into a bad idea. If he can't even be bothered to spare a second of his time for his friends, what more if he has to stand some hours in a room full of strangers?
I need to get going. I just dropped in to check on something and...
His words trail off, cut off mid-sentence on purpose, leaving it for me to comprehend the rest of it. At the same time, his eyes shift momentarily towards the door closest to us. Isabella's unit. Her unit. Eerily quiet now in her absence. The instant his lips curve into a small frown and his shoulders tense, I know work is far from his reasons for being here. Being all too aware of that idea alone summons another dull ache straight into my chest. Like every time, every single moment he affords her the attention he can never seem to spare others. While it is a worry better left for a different situation, it twinges the heart nevertheless.
Is it the case? Were you able to smooth things out with the chief and Inspector Abigail?
Yeah, they let me back in. A few hours after another sermon, though. But it's not that.
He stalls, several seconds too long for comfort. Minutes later, he takes a step back, stuffs both his hands in his pockets before looking away. It's like he doesn't want to be here. His posture on its own screams his complete reluctance to the one delivering whatever this is. Is there anything worse than the one we got last time? Or the one that I saw? Somehow, part of me no longer wants to hear him out. If this will only be another unpleasant news.
Actually, it's... LPD's been in contact with the embassy. And her family back home.
Oh, how did they take it?
As one would expect. Her mom was in shock, of course. The eldest guy I talked to, the one she complains about a lot, I kinda see why. He threatened to kill me if he found out I'm lying. Swore he'd take the first flight here. As if you could lie about something like that.
And her dad? Does he know?
No, I think they're putting it off until he's well enough to take the news. They're already making arrangements with the embassy now. Her aunt's helping out as much as she can, but there's only so much she can do.
You should have said a word. Is there something we could help with then?
That's why I'm here, actually. They called this afternoon. Asked if we could pack some of her things tomorrow. For shipment. Back home.
Silence descends between us as the gravity of his words sink in. A gut punch, if anything. Suddenly, it's all moving too fast. We haven't even come to terms with it, and yet the world is already asking for more.
Tomorrow? Isn't that a little...
Abrupt? Hasty? The right words won't take form. What right do we have to protest in the first place? Do we even get a say in this? We're just her friends, people she met because she happened to end up here. We have no right to hold on to her when her family, people of her own blood, is waiting. For her, they will always come first. But where does this leave us then?
And what about the case? Don't they want to know who did that to her? Are they just going to leave it like this?
I sure hope not. We can't just drop it. I can't let them. The bastard's still out there.
Then talk to them. You're part of the team investigating this, right? You should be able to reason with them, or... Ashton, you have to try. You can't allow this to...
A genuine plea, yet under the weight of his gaze and every uncertainty behind them, the rest of it falls weakly off my lips. Unspoken, fragile, amidst the silence suddenly stretching out between us. In the middle of it, Ashton stands perfectly still for a handful of minutes. Whatever he thinks beyond the ones he allowed me to hear, he keeps hidden, still unwilling, unready to let go of. When, at last, he finally decides to break the hush, he merely casts a glance back to the empty room beside us. Gone is that somber mood. When he shifts, his casual, friendly air is back.
I'll see what I can do. I'll let you know. For tomorrow, I'll try to bring Zach for some extra help. See you, Becca. Good night.
Ashton squeezes my shoulder, light as he can, before stepping away and heading straight for the stairs. His way of offering comfort in the middle of this little mess we found ourselves in. But amidst all this, a tiny voice at the back of my mind nudges at a memory. Something I've forgotten, and the very reason why I've chosen to return home early. He's made it 4 steps down when the realization kicks in and awareness of the envelope I've been holding returns to me. Panic roots before proper words can form, or I can think about the situation. Not a second sooner, I'm calling after him.
Ashton, wait!
He halts, one foot ready on the other step, when he turns to me, raising an eyebrow in question.
Yeah?
All of the times, and of all times, it is the moment when I falter. The adrenaline from earlier's panic suddenly recedes. All of a sudden, none of the things I've prepared to say will take form, and I'm caught between simply forgetting about this or just blurting out to him while hoping for the best. Should I even? Heck yeah, you should do it. There's nothing wrong with trying, I suppose. I'm not going to lose anything if he says no, which frankly has a very high chance of happening than the opposite, though the thought still doesn't prevent the heat from crawling up to my face and send my heart racing. It's better to get this over with before my throat closes up and I lose my nerve.
Tomorrow afternoon. Do you have time?
A small frown is already on his face. I already see where this is going and what he's thinking from that alone. Yet for some mullish reason I continue, hanging on to that tiny glimmer of hope if he'll say yes, if I present an argument good enough for him.
That depends. Why?
Well, you see, someone sent an invite for a housewarming party, and I thought you might want to...
Rebecca, I'd rather stand on the messy end of a gunshot. You know that.
I know, it's just...
What a jerk. Rebecca's hot. You should totally hit that, Ashton. WTF.
You're one of the few people I can count on with things like this.
That's cool. I appreciate the thought. But really, Zach's a better companion. Gatherings like that just aren't my cup of tea.
It did cross my mind, you know. If he isn't busy with his freelance work, I'd probably ask him too. Actually, you two would have been spared if Isabella was here, but...
Why not just skip out on it? The world's not going to end if one guest doesn't show up.
Trust me, I'd love to. But I promised Mom I'll be there.
Still can't say no, huh?
Like you're any better. Besides, the person who sent this is an old friend of Mom and Dad. If it's important to them, why not? Though, who would have thought, huh? The famous Evans heir used to be tutored by my parents. Apparently, we also met before.
Wait, who?
Evans. Hannah Evans. Well, she's already married. She goes by Hannah Wright now. Remember the couple who bought the mansion Isabella's selling?
The same people?
As far as I know. Unless I misread their address, or there's another Hannah Wright in this city that we don't know about.
Let me see that.
Without waiting, he walks closer and takes his invitation off my hands, gently, but the same force of urgency in his voice. I don't know what he finds in it, but his eyebrows draw together all as his eyes scan through the little lines of text printed on a small piece of paper. His hold on the envelope tightens with each pass. By the time he has finished reading, his mouth has formed into a thin line.
You never mentioned this.
We met just once. Or at least, that's what Mum told me. Honestly, I can't recall anything from it. Otherwise, I would have told you about it.
He hums something inaudible under his breath, all while thumbing the paper, staring at it as if doing so will proffer him answers to even unspoken questions in his head. When he gleans nothing from it, he merely folds the envelope back to its form.
All right, I'll go with you.
What?
I'll go with you. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Unless you've already made up your mind about asking Z-Man.
No, I told you already the guy's busy. Why would I bother him for this when I can go alone? But what about your own work and...
I can make time for this. 3 o'clock, yeah? I'll pick you up an hour or so before.
My head reels, less from what this implies, more from how easy all this seems from him, how fast his turnaround is. He's already halfway down the stairs when any semblance of sense returns to me, and I can finally string 2 words of protest together. Yet all of it dies on my tongue at the small smile he shoots me. He disappears from view seconds later, his footsteps gradually fading as he descends to the stairwell until all I can hear are my shallow breaths and heartbeat, loud pounding hard against my chest. It is only after I'm standing alone in my room, minutes later, that it sinks in. He has taken an invitation with him, but besides that, more than that, he has also accepted mine. Calling this happiness is a complete understatement. For now, looming thoughts of the mansion and that woman lay silent at the back of my head. October 28th, Friday. The night wears on without any further incident, despite the great number of thoughts swimming inside of my head. Come morning, there's only a hush, a strange sort of stillness unlike the ones greeting me every morn. This one's uneasy, tight with anticipation, like a string stretched thin, merely waiting for a proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant, but the edge is still there. It hangs in the hallway, it lingers in Isabella's room, palpable the moment I ease open the door and walk in. The scent of disinfectant greets me upon crossing its threshold. The windows have been left wide open, but it doesn't do much to keep the sterile smell out. The walls and the floors have also been scrubbed clean out of blood after the police were done with it. Yet, even after all the efforts they've taken, the stench of death endures. But more than that is the sight of what is left behind, or what was left behind. Posters hanging on the wall, framed photos she keeps on her bedside. The stuffed toys she bought on a whim before, the mess of cushions on one area of the room that she promised to clean. She'd never be able to do that now. Yeah, no shit. Even without me here, the room is so undoubtedly hers. Ashton and Zachary are already here, each of them having found a corner of the room to start their work. Scattered around them are a couple of boxes, 6, 7. Most are still empty, merely waiting to be filled. It's a wonder if it'll be enough to fit all 5 years' worth of memories there. Knowing Isabella, she won't be willing to leave any of these behind. There's no lively chatter, no friendly banter here to greet me, only thick silence hanging between the 3 of us. And despite my resolve, I still end up hanging around the door, unsure. From the looks of it, the 2 of them alone can already handle this, but still, I want to help. Even if doing this has a ring of finality to it. We're going to assist Ash instead of Zach because we like Ash, and Zach's just a friend, and I'm pretty sure we have a crush on Ash. So, yeah. Yeah. Ashton does not look up from his work when I approach. He is, however, considerate enough to make room for me, and what little space he's made for himself amidst the room's mess. In the little time he's been here, he's made much progress cleaning up the corner of the room he picked. 2 boxes have already been filled up, taped, and set aside. Now he's already working through the photos taped on Isabella's fridge, carefully putting them all in a neat stack beside him. With nothing else to say, not even a clipped greeting, we both simply lapse into silence. Working diligently through the clutter of papers and books around us, sorting everything into boxes. This pile will immediately be sent to her family. It's important. A collection of postcards goes in this other box for shipment at a later date. Her younger siblings will love it. Only a few soft grunts and hums are exchanged between us until the minutes blur and we found a rhythm. One that's only broken when Ashton chuckles. An odd thing to hear in the heavy silence of the room, and it prompts me to look up from my own work, puzzled. He's staring at one of the remaining photos still fixed on the fridge's door. Moments later, after a bit of amusement has died down, he reaches for it. It's an old photo of the 4 of us. We got Isabella, Rebecca, Ashton with little cat ears, or maybe like devil ears and a mustache, and good old Zach. Taken a few years ago, about 2 or 3 probably. I can't remember now. Isabella has always been the one to remember these sort of things. Although at this moment, the picture isn't the most flattering thing to look at, and she drew over Ashton's face. None of it seems to bother him, though. In fact, with the manner he's staring at it, it's as if he's holding something precious in his hands right now. A tender smile is on his lips, and for the first time in days, his eyes are bright with something closer to fondness.
Really, scaredy cat? A mustache? I expect more from you than that.
She was such a child sometimes.
Worse. She's clumsy, a scatterbrain, and a crybaby. In the 5 years we've known her, she got us into all kinds of trouble. More than I can count. Honestly, she barged into our lives with all the subtlety of a bulldozer. The way she came in leaves a terrible impression when you think about it. Who does that?
It sounds like a complaint on all fronts. There's not even a hint of humor in it. Whenever I look at it, I'm inclined to think he really means all of it. But this is Ashton. Sometimes, despite what he says, his words carry completely different meaning beyond what he chooses to convey. It's all a matter of looking beyond it, past his unnecessary criticisms and blunt declarations. Should we say, I can hear you, but, or you're being rude, Ash? He's being rude.
You're being rude, Ash.
I didn't...
You're not supposed to talk about her like that, even if she's no longer here. There's a proper time and place for jokes. Today isn't.
You don't... That's not what I...
Abruptly, he pauses and takes a breath. A scowl slowly forms on his head, and as he tries to form words and fails. Perhaps I've been too harsh on him. It's not every day that Ashton falls short of a retort. But even with Isabella's childish tendency, she deserves none of those words, especially from a friend. In the end, after a long battle with himself, Ashton settles for a quick apology. He hastily stuffs the picture in a nearby box and proceeds to take the rest of the photos off the fridge's door, noticeably with less care than before. And along with it, the mood around us quickly changes. Awkward now, more stifling than any of the silences we've shared as children. His movements are sharper, more functional, and only when he finishes storing the last of the photographs into the box does he speak. In a low, strained tone, if the room isn't as quiet as it is, I would have missed it.
I do care about her, you know? I just wish I could have told her that.
No further words are exchanged after that, and perhaps it is for the better. We manage to pack most of Isabella's belongings by the time all of us have to leave for work, but at the threshold, we all hesitate. A heavy air hangs around us, a consequence of knowing that this might be the last time we will be doing something for her. Of course, none of us mentions it, even if the meaning's all too clear in our own heads. This is good. This is a goodbye, if anything. The world outside waits, and we can't stay here. So, with the last glance, we leave all of it behind. At least tonight, I'll have something to look forward to, something to help take my mind off things. And if any of my hunches are correct, where this will stand will provide the answers I'm looking for. Except for okay, now we're off to the mansion for the party. Except for the whole thing's off to a bad start, and all of a sudden whatever Isabella's claimed dwelling in this mansion becomes at least the least of my concerns. Okay, that's an odd bit of dialogue to start this new scene, but whatever. Severely underdressed is a total understatement to describe how I look. Cars worth more than my own apartment and childhood home combined line the mansion's front yard. Men and women decked out in their best also flock near the entrance. Most are eager for the festivities to start, while some are simply idling about, enjoying the warm afternoon sun before it sets. But once the woman standing at the porch speaks, their undivided attention immediately shifts to her. Presumably Miss Wright, from the confident manner she holds herself among the presence of company. This, despite keeping a far simpler appearance than the rest of her own guests, or not having her husband beside her. A trait worthy of utmost admiration at best. At worst, she's the envy of every woman, the subject of every gossip in Luxbourne.
Welcome everyone.
And Mom said we could have been good friends. I can't even picture myself mingling with the kind of guests she has. Though I admit she does seem familiar now that I've seen her this close. Memories of sitting in a vanity, not mine, being dressed in clothes too fancy for my tastes. They flit briefly in my mind until her cheerful tone rises above the buzz of her enraptured audience again.
Please make yourselves at home.
I wish I could share her enthusiasm, really. But being surrounded by all of this extravagance, for the lack of a better term, merely makes me dread how the rest of the night might go. Also, knowing there might be some truth to what lies inside this place helps drive the unease further by a notch. Ashton, on the other hand,
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
for someone who abhors gatherings like this, he already seems right at home, standing with an air too lackadaisical as he watches the valet drive off with his bloody car.
Can't you at least act with a bit more shame?
Becca, if I find a single scratch on Shirley, there will be hell to pay.
Those guys know what they're doing. They're handling cars worth more than your precious Shirley.
My disdain has likely shown beyond the tone of my voice, quite possibly in the form of a grimace. He chuckles, a rare moment where mirth and amusement danced across his features. Try as I might to pull out a stern glare, I can't help but join him instead. There's something in the lightness of it, how easy this kind of interaction falls into place when we don't let feelings get too involved, in spite of being stuck in a situation we're not fond of. It brings back memories. However, the moment doesn't hold. All of a sudden, Ashton grows quiet.
Chief?
An odd expression flashes momentarily across his face, though he blinks it away before I can figure out what it is exactly.
Ashton, what's...
Sorry, Becca, I just saw someone I need to catch up with. Longtime friend.
It doesn't help that he isn't even making an effort to spare a glance my way when he answers. Instead, they're focused at some point in the crowd. His gaze darting between people walking past us until a small frown forms in his face.
Oh, wait, Ash! What about...
This won't be long. Be careful while I'm gone, okay?
I meet the smile he hastily throws my way with a frown of my own. What does he mean by that? But before I can ask, already he has turned his back from me and is walking away without a single explanation whatsoever. In some desperate effort, I try to catch up to him, if only to know what warranted the sudden departure and his odd warning at the end.
Hey, be careful!
only for my attempts to be interrupted by muffled ringing in my pocket. Mom's cheerful voice greets me as soon as I answer.
Yes, I'm at the party already, Mom. Yes, I'll say hi to her if I can.
The conversation itself doesn't last long. Just a simple hello, a reminder to enjoy the party and to send their regards to their old student. But when the call ends and I get to look up, Ashton's already headed inside. With a sigh, admittedly a little disappointment, I tuck my mobile back into my pocket and I follow after him.
So much for date.
Yeah. Even with familiar company, this is somehow shaping up to a terrible evening. Alright, we are going to end the episode off here. Thank you all so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up or don't. I don't give a shit. And, goodbye, everyone.